What's up everybody, Boss Sauce here, and I'm going to show you today how to fix Hammerfight. Now, this is a classic game, a real hidden treasure of a game where you swing around hammers at little skycopter steampunk contraptions and giant worms. It's got some really great physics-based gameplay, so if you want to find out more about the game, you can check out our review, but my objective today is to show you how to get it working as best as it can on modern PCs. So this game is from 2009, kind of old, doesn't always play super nice, and the Steam version, unfortunately, is not the most recent version of the game. So, another thing I want to mention is Hammerfight is actually free to play, so there's no reason for you to not go out and try this right away after you finish watching the vid. I'll show you how to set it up so that it'll work good on your gaming computer, and honestly, this game's old enough that it might work on pretty much any PC at this point. So, without further ado, let's get started. So the biggest problem to begin with is if you play Hammerfight after the full Steam install, you'll probably see something like this. It's boxed to a tiny little window, and the game is locked to 4:3 aspect ratio and 800x600 resolution. You'll also notice at the top here that it's listed as version 1.004. Now, this is not the final version of the game, and this was never updated on Steam. However, I found out that there is a version 1.005 that includes a new mode and a bunch of other new stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna quit out of here by hitting escape, and we're gonna fix this. There's a really good Steam community post from last year, from September 8th of 2021, by makeshift that shows you exactly how to update this to version 1.0005 and unlock Tribal Wars. So that's a pretty cool game mode. We're gonna go ahead and start with this. Now, he has a link here that goes straight to a Google Drive link, which has the patch. I will also mirror this in the description, so you'll have a couple options in case this link ever goes down. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and download the update. Go ahead and click download here, and we'll just stick it in my downloads folder. Looks good. Open up this RAR file. And you want to actually go into this folder here. And here's all the files that you're going to need to overwrite in your game directory. So we take this and we want to extract this into our game directory and overwrite everything that's in the Hammerfight game directory. So to do that, head over to Steam, and you see Hammerfight. We're going to right click that, properties, local files, then hit browse. And then you'll see this is the Hammerfight directory, the game directory. And what we want is this path up here. So go ahead and click the bar, copy, go back to WinRAR, and you'll want to extract. You want to make sure that you're actually in the update.zip/hf005 update archive folder here. So you want to go down one layer. So when you open the RAR file, it'll look like this. You want to make sure you go in here and extract this. So extract this folder, and then you'll see that the path comes up. You want to extract that to your game folders. So just paste that right in there. All right, and then you should hit OK. And it's going to say, hey, do you want to overwrite this? You want to say yes to all. So that should patch the game for you. Let's test it out and make sure that worked to start. So we can close that now. We can close the local files. Let's hit play. And yep, you can see it's at version 1.005 at the top now. So that's the first step done, and you've got the game updated to its newest version. Pat yourself on the back. You've come this far. Go ahead and hit escape and close out the game. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to fix it so that it works in full screen and with a resolution that, you know, looks better. Basically, go back in here, head to properties, head to local files, head to browse, and we're back here in your Hammerfight folder, as you can see. So there is a config file in the game here, in the game folder. You want to go ahead and open this up in whatever text editor is comfortable for you. I'm just using Notepad. And you can see here that there's actually a lot of cool stuff that you can mess with. Now, there's also some cheats and things like add extra health, things along that line. You can mess directly with the game physics in here if you want. So poke around, you know. The first thing I would recommend is to save a copy of your config file. So say config backup, because if you screw something up, then you'll have a backup. And you only have to rename this back to config.ini in order to revert your changes. So you can see that there's the configuration options here. There's a lot of them. Dog mode of particular note. This is God mode. So if you're having problems with one part of the game and you don't want to waste all your gold on the gold bulla, you can change this to true. I'm going to leave this as false right now, but you can activate a God mode if you want. There's some graphics tweaks you can do here. They will actually change whether certain graphics are displayed in the game, but there's a lot of VFX and sometimes these can be overwhelming. So if you look down here where it says GFX render smoke, GFX render blur, and so forth, if this is too much, you can turn these off. Like if you want to take off the motion blur, there's a lot of motion blur, you can just change this to false. You know, when you're done tweaking all that, you save your changes and you can start the game up. What we want to do here is we want to change this stuff down here where it says GFX screen width, GFX screen height, and GFX windowed. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change this stuff to our monitor settings. So if you have a 1080p monitor, you'll want to change this to 1920 by 1080. If you're like me and you have a 2K monitor, you want to change this to 2560 by 1440. And then you'll want to change GFX windowed to false, and this will make it full screen. Now, the thing is, if you just change the screen width and height, you're going to stretch the graphics. So if you keep windowed mode as true and save your changes and then start the game, this is going to stretch out all the graphics. It's going to stretch all the sprites and it's going to look weird. You're going to have little fat flying machines flying around. I'll show you what I mean here. So you can see that the game started in windowed mode. The logo is rendering pretty wide. The other logo also rendering wide. All the text is rendering wide. And you can see that the menu graphics here, all these circles are ovals now. So, I mean, if you like this, this is fine, I guess. But I don't really particularly like this look. I want the graphics to be as designed. So we're going to go ahead and quit that out. And we're going to go back into that config file. And we're going to change this to false. And we're going to save it. We're going to hit play. And you can see that the game is now running in full screen. Unfortunately, it is still letterboxed to 4:3. That's just how it's going to work. Now, there's not a true UI fix that changes the aspect ratio, unfortunately. So you're going to be stuck with a 4:3 window, or you're going to have stretched graphics. You basically get to pick between those two. So it's not totally ideal, but it looks pretty good. Now, another thing you're going to want to do before actually starting a new game is you'll want to go ahead to the options within the game and you'll want to set your mouse DPI low. It sounds totally counterintuitive, but if you set your mouse DPI high, you're going to be making these big, you can already feel it. I mean, you can't really see it on the video, but you're going to be making these big swoopy motions with your mouse hand. And your wrist is going to get pretty tired swinging around your little hammer fighter. So I recommend you set this low. You'll make smaller movements with the mouse. It makes the menus a little more angry to control, but your in-game experience is going to be extremely improved. Now, if you've done everything right, you'll see that you'll have to unlock this mode, of course, but if you've done everything right, you'll eventually be able to unlock Tribal Wars, which is a new mode. There's a bunch more weapons and stuff as well, and you'll have the game patched, so it'll be replete with all the fixes that it should have had in the first place before it was on Steam. So let's get to some tips here. If the campaign ever offers you a choice to do a hard mission, You want to do it and complete the hard mission so that you can unlock new modes. The most important of these is Grim Mode. Grim Mode is a monster hunt. Now, basically you can use this mode to grind some coins and get some gems, which are very important to unlocking a good build. So the pink ones will let you regenerate health, for example. The orange ones will give you fire. The blue ones will give you ice abilities. And you can kind of toy around with the gems to see which ones you like the best. If you need more gems, just go back in, complete another hunt, and the boss will drop a couple gems every time you beat it. Beating Tribal Wars will unlock a weapon. So if you don't want to grind for gold to buy the weapons in the shop, you can unlock a randomized weapon by beating a level in Tribal Wars. Once you unlock the shop, you'll want to buy some armor. Armor is a lifesaver. You can bind it to a key. I usually bind it to spacebar, and this way you put up all your armor at once. It does control differently, so you'll be slower once you have your armor active, but you'll also be able to shrug off stuff like big hits from swords and bombs and stuff like that a little bit easier. Weapon reach is very helpful, so I like to mix up my weapons. I like to have a flail and also a big sword or a hammer. So like a close range weapon and a long range weapon. But you can have a hammer and a cannon, or a sword and another sword, and have like a Darth Maul situation. It's a little harder to control unless the weapons have different weights. So I would definitely have a heavy weapon counterbalanced by a light weapon. Your sword's facing matters. So there's actually a hitbox on the edge of the sword. That goes for the rest of the weapons as well. Like your chain doesn't have a damage hitbox. The item on the end of the chain, like if you have a rock on a chain or a flail or a whip, that item is going to be where your damage comes from. So you'll want to make sure that when you line up a swing, you're hitting the enemy with the hitbox that will damage them. So swords have a facing. You can change this facing with a right click while you have your sword selected in the weapon wheel. And you'll want to make sure that you're swinging your sword in the proper direction to do damage. You can also throw your weapon. You can throw your sword by holding and releasing the right mouse button. So if you're in a bind or you have a crappy sword and you want to pick up a different sword, you can chuck it at a bad guy, or you can just drop it on the ground with this. So that pretty much does it. If you thought this video was helpful, please leave us a comment. If you have any other questions or I missed something, let me know. Once again, thanks for watching. Check out our video review on the Two-Headed Hero channel. My name is Boss Sauce, and I'll see you on the next fix video or the next backlog quest. Have a great one.